Connecting to the cloud. Who's going to be in charge, Mrs. Peterson or Mrs. Kelly?
No. I'll give her the option.
This committee, basically you call it to order. Move us forward on the agenda. You can't do it wrong.
So it's up to you. I've done it the last, I don't know, few years, so I would gladly let someone else do it.
And I can learn how to do it.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
and I'll walk you through it. Okay, great. So we can call the meeting to order. Okay. So it was posted and on the web.
The agenda.
I would make that motion. You'll kind of have to second it. Okay. It's not here. And then it's kind of all in favor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
There you go.
Old business, 4.1, policy 347, middle school student advancement.
Oh, okay, so before we go any further, then you kind of take some notes because Kathleen always types up quite a bit. But then, you know, when it's on the board agenda to ask what we did, then you just kind of do an overview. So, you know, as you jot things down, okay? All right, sorry, now
Is
you
there
go on.
any?
I just,
I don't see anybody.
Join us?
Chris was going to join us. I don't see that he's here though. Is anybody else here? What? No, it's right here. Sorry. So basically what has happened here, we have two different ones. This one is the proposed one that we haven't okayed yet. And this one, yeah, that's just for math. And this is the one we redid last year. And I think this is your comment, Kathleen. So let's see what it says.
that's what I wanted it to be changed.
Okay. And I can change that if this group wants us to, so.
Can we just maybe bring Becca up to speed why this is happening?
Yes. Do you want me to do that?
So my understanding was last year before, well, they would have been seventh graders going into eighth grade. There were, gosh, probably about 13 that were told that they would be advancing to algebra. And then when it was kind of all said and done, did we have any advanced algebra?
Two.
And it was, you know, kind of due to the math recommendation, whatever it, so there were an issue. There were some parents that weren't happy and things like that. But this group did not really make the score, correct?
Yes.
So advancing them with our high school math instructors did not seem like a good thing because they just didn't have the understanding that was necessary. Their scores weren't that high. I mean, good students.
Right.
One was my granddaughter.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I totally understand. You gotta know it, not just push through it.
To
So-
skip a grade. That's basically what it was. It
And
didn't-
correct me if I'm wrong, but the recommendation for the advancement was not by a teacher, correct? So it was not by the man.
Was not by the math.
Correct.
Correct. And so thus this policy, because it's like they just felt that if this is going to happen, they should be the primary that say, yes, the student is definitely ready. And it got quite messy, but I think it all worked itself out. I think everybody that took whatever they took, benefited from it. But the policy has to change because the old policy involved people that wouldn't necessarily or shouldn't necessarily be making the decision. So that's just kind of the groundwork why this is happening.
Yep.
That makes sense. So they are actually, the more every time I look at them, they are different. So like the 347, the policy, that's just any math, any middle school student advanced, any high school course. Whereas then we have a specific one for the math. Correct?
Correct. And the math
Mhm.
people presented to us why there should be a specific one for math. There should be a specific one for English. There should be a specific, because if the student, it shouldn't just be based on an A.
Correct. Or just the teacher saying, oh, this is a good kid. So we wanted more
It should be
parameters.
Subject specific is what,
Right.
and actually the only teachers that came to us
With the math.
were the math.
But there has been, and I don't know if this is the time, there has been talk about, and Chris isn't here, for Spanish, kids to take 8th grade Spanish. There's no like pre-test that you can take.
And I do know that he asked the teacher to create a pretest and that didn't happen.
But truthfully, how would you create a pre-test for a language you haven't learned?
Well, you should know things like what is a direct object, what is an indirect object, what is
Oh,
past
sure.
tense,
So English, but
future
that's
tense.
different.
It is English, but if you can't figure out a direct
No, I understand
object in
that
English,
totally. But I think she was told to do a Spanish test.
okay, well, in
Yeah, okay, just so that it,
I don't know what kind of test you would give. And you can't do a pretest in Spanish if you never had it.
right, well, that's what I was thinking.
So,
If their English was such.
right. So because of this, and still Chris has some things that he'd like to take out and move around on this policy, but the math teachers then came up with this.
So now are we looking at the one that 347 for the placement in math course?
Yes.
Okay.
No, 348.
Well, yeah, it's got a 347 on it because David created this sheet. I didn't. I wouldn't have given it the same number.
Should it
Okay.
not be 347.1?
Yeah, it might be that.
And then like if they did an ELA 0.2.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Because we've been at this a while, so it'd be nice to get the ducks in a row so the board can vote on it. Policy can say this is good to go. So is there anything on there that you two gals do not agree with as administrator and curriculum director?
Well, I know, I'm just looking back at notes from other meetings that we've had. Because it seems like this, number 4,
Mhm.
Chris does not agree with.
Number 4, the student must score mid-7 on the I-ready test.
Which means that in mid-7th grade, when they're taking advanced placement tests to see if they qualify for to skip 8th grade, they would only be right with their peers.
Right.
He thinks it should be mid-8th grade.
Right.
They should be like a year ahead of them, their peers at the time.
Correct, if they're gonna.
If
So
they're
that
gonna
was
skip
algebra.
8th grade, yeah,
So what I have,
right.
in-
And it made sense to me.
so this is from May 6th, our minutes. There was discussion, let's see, changes on suggested policy. And let's see if we did it. A introductory paragraph to include after sentence 1, a parent or teacher may request the student be considered for advancement. So that's not up. So that was suggested change.
Okay,
Number 1, remove request and add approval. Move it to the end of the list. Number 1, go to, it should become 6.
all right,
And remove the word request and add approval, written parent approval.
So that would, number 1 would become,
Number 6, basically. We're just
well,
changing
so
the
are you
word.
adding another one? Wouldn't 2 become number 1?
Okay, it would go after 6. That's currently on the list. And then,
Oh, okay.
then in the beginning, I
Got it.
go back. Mathematics advancement pertains to a middle school student meeting the appropriate benchmarks to accelerate past the 8th grade math course and take algebra 1. Then we should have, I'm gonna say a guardian, not a parent. Because, you know.
I'm just trying to find the actual policy that's,
Well, the
so I can literally type right on it. So
written parent slash
You should
guardian
have it on
approval.
the agenda.
I do, but I don't, I'm gonna have to download it and upload it, so.
A parent, a guardian and or a teacher may request the student be considered for advancement.
And that's number 1.
Nope. That
That's-
is, nope, that, according to our May minutes, that suggestion was to go after the first sentence in the initial paragraph. So after you just start mathematics advancement pertains blah, 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 algebra 1, period. Next sentence, a guardian and or teacher may request a student be considered for advancement.
All right, start for me.
So go after algebra 1 in the first paragraph. Yep. Period.
Well, you said start after algebra 1.
Sentence.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Can we just discuss that a minute?
Yep.
Yes.
Isn't that first paragraph, would that not more involve like the team and the people that actually think the student should advance?
Yes.
And you're asking for the parents' request.
Nope, we're gonna change that to approval.
Approval, I know, but I mean, do you want that included in that article? To me, that is a school decision.
So
that
should we,
first paragraph.
so just leave it
Julie,
out?
do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
That's fine. I'm just going back to what we had suggested changes.
Yep.
And
Okay.
speak up, Becca, you've got kids in the school, so if you're not in agreement with me, but to
That's fine.
me,
So then, that's fine. I get that. Just leave it out. So
yeah,
number 1, Julie,
Okay,
you're gonna remove that and put it after number 6.
written parental guardian request.
Yep.
I keep getting the notification that the meeting's over on the Zoom.
We were looking for it even.
Let's see. Please contact meeting host. Julie Summer.
Okay, not me. Hold on.
It's not letting me. Okay. I'll have to figure the typing out later.
Okay, 6, and then take out request and write approval. And then number 3, a student must score at least 90 for.
Well, it's number 2 now because it screwed it up.
I know, but number 3, change to a period of time.
What?
I'm just reading the notes
Okay.
from the May minutes. It says, change number 3, which is a student must score at least 90,
On
to a
the,
period of time. We have to say which quarter.
oh,
So a student must score at least a 95% on the department test. Was that 3rd quarter, Chris?
taken during 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do after 2nd semester, maybe. How's that?
After 1st semester.
Or, yeah, after. Right. So that is a little more leeway. Then, number 4 is the student must score mid-7th. We said early 8. So my notes say there was discussion about the iReady mid-7th. Mr. Levin pointed out that if a student meets all criteria and takes Algebra 1 as an 8th grader, that student will be skipping Math 8 curriculum. He indicated that a student needs to know most of 8th grade math curriculum to be successful in Algebra 1. So therefore, the iReady should be mid-8th. Machine said she would accept at least early 8th by the final iReady diagnostic of the student's 7th grade year. So that's the end of their 7th grade year. They should be at least early 8th, at least.
Well, why early? Why not mid? Early would mean that they still need quite a bit of
Yeah.
8th
Yeah.
grade math.
That was
I'm
my
fine.
argument.
Student must score mid-8th on the iReady test on the final diagnostic assessment. Or the end of year diagnostic assessment. We give one. The goal of this policy is to have a method for students to be able to take calculus if in their career path.
Where is it?
Whereas what?
That sentence you just said.
I'm reading the notes from our main mail.
Okay,
Well,
sorry.
that's not necessarily on here.
No,
It's that this is the goal that we'll have more kids.
Yeah. And then it said it was also discussed that if a student takes Algebra 1 as a freshman, the student could take Algebra 2 and Geometry their 10th grade year at the same time and still be able to take calculus as a senior.
So I don't know if that needs to be.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I'm just, Becca wasn't in on
Just-
that,
Okay.
so. You're still-
She's still trying to catch up and the way we're changing it and talking, she's
Well,
probably like,
You know, and I think both Chris and Kathleen can reiterate this, Becca, we have really struggled with our math. And with our kids' math scores, and we have had kids who have been placed higher than they probably should have. And so we really, our math scores have not been outstanding at all. To really look at the number of kids that maybe have advanced
So I went
and then
to,
struggle in high school.
yeah,
Yeah.
I went to David Trippon and said, what's up with our scores? You know, you're the math guy.
Yeah.
And he said, the problem is I'm getting so many kids that have skipped 8th grade math. By the time I get them, and then they're catching up as freshmen and sophomore, by the time I get them, they don't have. So the other problem was that we didn't have a consistent middle school math teacher, which we do now. And I think it's going a lot better now. So I really do.
Because our math scores were good until we had Mr. McNally retired, and then we had turnover after
Yeah.
turnover. And just before he retired, there was turnover in the high school after Mr. Donahoe left. So we had probably 10 years of math teachers coming and going, so.
yep,
And it used to be, you know, when Mr. Donahoe and Mr. McNally, it was who Mr. McNally recommended could handle Mr. Donahoe's math.
Yeah.
So
They
then
knew, they knew each
they
other.
knew each other, worked together for 25, 30 years. So
So that-
now,
I mean,
then you
that
have turnover. You don't know.
right.
Then they came up with a test. We use a diagnostic, so.
And that's why we had the math teachers come up with that test and come up with the high percentage, the 95%. Paula and Greg and David put that test together. And out of the 30-some kids that took it this year, 1 kid. But there was 20-some signed up. That one skipped 8th grade.
So they created a test.
Yeah.
So it's that test and their iReady and how they do in the class.
And the
So,
forward.
yeah, and the forward too.
And they did, as you went up further, where it says the committee will include, they eliminated the gifted and talented coordinator. They wanted that eliminated, hasn't been passed, right? Just because
Did you put draft at the top?
they weren't in agreement with some of those suggestions. Again, not a math related person.
So then we have mid-8th, right? And the iReady by the end, the final end of year diagnostic.
So you know, on the test that they put together, it wasn't about algebra. it was, you know, whether or not they know algebra, because
You
you
know,
know,
Right.
it was about whether or not they knew what was in the 8th grade curriculum. So,
and because we use iReady, the kids do lessons in iReady and attack. So if they're a kid that's a go-getter, or as math comes easy, they can work through it. Then they should be able to score mid-8th by the end of their 7th. If they're putzing along, then they probably won't, but you know.
and we had found, we went back like 6 years. David and I did an analysis of the kids that had skipped 8th grade, what they scored on the ACT, and also how many kids quit taking math, because that algebra obviously is a freshman, I mean, high school credit.
Yeah.
40% of the kids that took that quit taking math after their sophomore year, because they had 3 already done. And that was another reason our ACT scores were down. So you don't have math for a year, so you're in trouble.
Well, and truly, if you skip, it should be that you are, that is something that you would pursue through high school.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the whole concept of this.
So you just get
It
farther.
kind of
than
I
that.
was gonna say, to make it farther instead of.
Yeah.
Right, and it kind of went by the wayside big time.
and it kind of broke because we went back and looked at all of our forward scores. And we had kids that were below grade level on their forward test being asked to be advanced. And I said, that makes sense.
So then at the bottom, it says the grade will be averaged in the student's high school cumulative. It won't count for math high school requirement. Now here, and I'm looking at the course description guide. Years ago, algebra was required.
Mhm.
Is it required though as just you had it, or as a high school requirement? Because if we have it worded that it's a high school requirement, but we don't let it count for high school credit.
It will be listed on their transcript because it's averaged in their high school cumulative GPA.
So
So
your question is, they have to have 3 credits of math.
No, we used to have explicit, you had to have algebra.
algebra, I'm pretty sure algebra is required.
It was, we required it. That's why I want to see if.
Well, see, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Because if you do read number 2 and it's underlined, this course will not count towards their mathematics high school requirement.
Requirements, but if,
Their GPA, it will count. So that is, if you want to be an advanced math student, that we presume that you're going to take algebra 2
Yep.
and at least geometry.
Mhm. Well, and I think that's a discussion when they become advanced, when they're suggested, your student is capable of doing this, but the expectation is that they will then take 4 years of high school math.
but they wouldn't necessarily have to, they could still take. 3.
They could, but
Yeah.
but we're going to tell the parents, the idea is we really want them to take the 4.
They're taking 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they could, oh, I see. What you're saying.
No, they would have to at least take geometry.
Well, they have to take algebra 2, geometry,
Right.
and either pre-calc or college algebra.
Yep.
So, or applied math, they'd have to take.
Because because the 8th grade math does
it
not
wouldn't
count toward their high
as
school
one of the
requirements.
3 to take, so.
And I mean, I get the argument. I was against that. I was against that when my own kid did it. But once I realized it didn't matter because she was still going to be taking math courses. So,
You still want to double
Yeah.
check.
Yep, I put that on there, and this will then be on policy on August 2nd. So,
and
Just gotta
I
make
get
sure.
that. The argument was it's a math course, it should come as math. I mean, I get that argument, but the teachers were very adamant about they need to take 3 years of math when they're in high school. So, and a lot of schools. I
Well,
know-
that's the high school requirement. So,
Yeah.
it's 3 years of math. So,
But
but
if
if
we're
you,
counting this, they technically could be done after their sophomore.
yeah,
year.
but they're not in high school yet.
Right, but we're counting it as a high school course.
we're counting the GPA, but
Yeah.
we're not counting the high school credit.
That's why we have that next line.
I
Yep.
just want to make sure
That's
that
why.
algebra is not somewhere.
That's different than this old policy. The credit earned will count toward the mandatory graduation requirement in that field. The original 347 has that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to,
Yeah, that's what the argument was, Jim.
Yeah,
I personally tried to talk with Dave and Paula about, I understand you want to take 3, but we've now narrowed it down so much that I do think the real strong kids are going to be doing that, because we're not having 25 8th graders skip 8th grade math anymore. We're gonna have 2 and maybe 3, that's it.
correct.
So I said I'd still be okay with that counting as the math. But they're pretty adamant about it, so.
So I just want to point out again that number 2 on the bottom goes against what DPI recommends. DPI recommends that we allow credit earned in grade 7 or 8 to count as high school credit if certain conditions are met. Conditions are 1, pupil's performance on a state exam. Formal exam approved by the school board must demonstrate that the pupil is academically prepared for coursework that is offered in high school. So we have that part in our policy. Second criteria, the credit must be earned in a course taught by a teacher who is licensed to teach the subject in the high school grades. And third, the credit must be earned in a course that is taught using a curriculum and assessments that are equivalent to the curriculum and assessment used to teach in the high school grades, which it is.
See, they're still getting credit.
I understand that,
It's
Chris,
just not
but
getting the math.
DPI recommends they get the math credit. That goes against.
They can say the high school credit.
Yeah, it says high school credit. Allowing credit earned in grades 7 and 8 to count as high school credit if certain conditions are met.
It doesn't say math credit. We are giving them high school credit.
You are, so it's an elective credit.
Yep.
So that needs to be spelled out. If this course will not count toward their math high school credit, it will
But
be
we'll count it.
considered an elective. Okay.
Yeah, we had that in there before. I went to work.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did, but that was at the meeting.
Well,
okay?
what didn't get in the,
So,
it
that's
didn't
fine.
get in the thing though. I remember we talked about it.
all right, so I will, before I get to policy, I will double check on the GPA, and then I will make sure that they know that this policy now does not match the other policy. Unless you guys want me to suggest to policy committee that this one be matched with our math one.
No, because if they take Spanish as an 8th grader, are they going to necessarily take Spanish 5, which we don't have a very good Spanish 5 program?
Well, that's a possibility that they could take Spanish 5.
It is a possibility, but the level of rigor in it isn't.
That point shouldn't be considered when we're making this policy.
Right.
But, so then to differentiate this one is gonna have like 347.1.
Yep.
Because they were very adamant about what that committee should consist of. And when they presented to us, you know, Kelly isn't here, and of course, Ron isn't on the committee anymore, but we were very much in favor that it be the principal, middle school, math teacher, and high school.
Should we put the word math in here? Middle school math teacher, high school math teacher?
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, because that's what our policy is. It's advanced placement into a high school math.
Well, and that's, I changed number 1 to read, their grade in the current math course is an A.
Right. instead of 47.
Yeah.
Correct.
Does math need to be capitalized? Is that one of the ones that? I forget. Kathleen, you're the English teacher.
I don't know, doesn't mean we can-
That's what I thought. All right. Shall I go on, or do you, Ms. Keller, do you think we are ready to move on? That's all right.
So then on that 4.11.
Yeah.
You changed that. That
Yes.
would be, okay,
So it's now this number.
7.1.
Yep. Just ignore me, Becca. You can keep going on to the next one.
Virtual option discussion and recommendation.
So at a different meeting. which one I don't remember,
The last couple of them, we've talked
May.
about it.
we talked about, just maybe the handout, back to back. And it starts with school. So the options that I presented in May were from Keel. Education Solutions is from Norwalk, Ontario. Then the next one, Brad Ebert, is from the Keel. They have their own, they've kind of done their own Wisconsin virtual schools kind of thing. And then the last one was the Wisconsin virtual school. So I recommend Viva do the cost, and again, so just some things. So my point is, if we have kids, and maybe we won't have any, that live in the district and want virtual option, I want to have an option for them. Otherwise, they'll open enroll to some other school and they'll be virtual there. We won't get to count. So if we accept Wisconsin virtual school, which we already have according to our course description guide, that is one of the options for kids to take courses. That allows the students to stay in the district and still be counted as an Ithaca student. So Wisconsin virtual school is asynchronous. That means it's on their own time. It's not necessarily in time with the current day. It's would be totally virtual. 1 hour per week is face-to-face with for all those students that are in class via Zoom with their instructor. The kids can set up individual Zoom meets. We enroll the student. It is a $290 per course per student. There's a 28-day grace period in which they can drop out of a course without paying for the fee. We do need one Ithaca staff designated to be the coach for the students.
So that's where I want you to stop and to explain to me how that's gonna happen.
Well, it happens like we do with any, like, we have kids that can be uncertain, so we have to have any online school, we have to have somebody in-house that oversees them. And currently, I believe Julie Thompson does, correct, Chris? For the kids that take Acellus courses, take certainty courses.
Meredith does a lot of it too.
Yep.
Signed him up and
But
does
we
that.
have to
So
have
then this
somebody.
is not like if they were taking a math course or something that we didn't offer or
Right.
wanted to be virtual.
Yep.
It's not going to tax our math teacher. It would be one of these other.
Correct.
Right. Because really the idea is that they're teaching them, we're just the person to do, to make sure they're keeping up,
Right.
make sure they're logging in, you know, on Acellus. I don't know how Weeva works, but Acellus, the teacher can go in and look at how many lessons they've done, how much time actual time in minutes and hours, how many they've spent on the, well, I'm working really hard. Okay, and the last month you did 3 hours. That's not really working real hard.
And the big difference, I think, on leave is that these kids aren't in school.
Right.
They're-
Well, I did, I just wanted to make sure because we had talked about that. We didn't want to
Right.
tax our teachers
100%.
with having to do, both.
No, I'm
So
not
that's
gonna
why I'm
say,
asking who was.
so I'm
gonna
not
do it.
gonna say though, if, let's say Emma wants to go 100% virtual and she gets a math course, would she, if Mr. Trapani was still here, my bet is she'd go ask him. Now, it would be up to him to deny
Correct.
it.
Well, right. No,
but-
I'm not saying that our
No,
teachers would not have any contact,
But
but
I
I'm
have the
saying,
option to say, I'm too busy to help you right now, or.
right, yeah,
can you have that?
because so each course is taught by a teacher. That teacher though, when I talk to whoever I talk to at Wisconsin Virtual School, they're full-time teachers already. So their face-to-face is at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
When they're not, they've taught all day long and now they have their online school that they work with.
Which
So,
is totally different than our self.
right, Celis is completely based. But according to our course description guide, we have it in there that kids can choose to take leave of classes. As part of, if they can't, just like they can take it UW Richmond, we have additional options if kids are interested.
so what you're saying is that some of these offerings would be in the evening.
No,
So
no. Wisconsin Virtual School, what I'm proposing that if we have a student that wants to be 100% virtual, this is how they do it.
Yeah.
Our teachers are not doing virtual school. We're not having 30 kids in a
but
class.
I'm asking about the student.
The
No,
student takes it on their own time.
on their own time.
It's asynchronous, so it's not, now the teacher may have set up that you're on at 6 o'clock at night. But mostly it's, the teacher has prepared videos of him or herself and
That
has
they can
lessons.
watch during the day.
Yeah,
Anytime they want to.
anytime they want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what asynchronous is, but
Okay.
the teacher will be available to them evenings and weekends, not at
Okay.
9:30 in the morning when they're working on their math and they're like, I need help. Okay, that teacher is in Oregon High School teaching a class. They'll email and that kind of thing, and I really don't anticipate anybody wanting it 100%, but I don't want to lose students.
Correct.
I think it's.
There might be.
I've reached out to all that did virtual all year, and most I've heard back are coming back. Now, I did have one tell me, asked an elementary student, parent asked if there was room. And I said, well, I don't think we're gonna be doing social distancing, so I don't know, because of that, depending on where vaccinations are, what we do in our building, there might be something.
That's actually, since you brought that up, that's one of the things I'm trying to get ready for school starting as like a frequently asked question sheet. And we had one last year and it was really long, but it was very all encompassing. But I think one of the questions we'll have on there is, what if I still want my child to wear a mask and be socially distanced?
Right.
And we will make every effort if that parent wants their kid to sit physically away, so long as there's only like 1, maybe 2 per class, we should be able to do that.
Right.
And we have the barriers, we're not throwing them away, we'll still have them, so when they're working in small group, the barrier will still be up, even if it's only for 1 child in the classroom, because a parent wants them socially distanced, that's what we'll do. So, but they'll have to ask us and we'll make every effort, but we can't
Guarantee anything.
guarantee it, because if we get 6 kids, then 4 of them are all sitting at, 10 of them are all sitting at one table and the other 6 have the rest of the room,
But everything's being done to make them aware.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll get there, yeah. As soon as I get my messaging
there are
done,
still-
we'll start sending it
I mean, there
out.
are still schools though for vegan stuff that are still requiring masking.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So. I mean,
Kickapoo
it's-
is requiring masking right now.
Yeah.
They start in 2 weeks. Masks are required.
For school, they're starting early again? No.
Yeah, they're starting early.
And there's been some summer schools this year that
Yeah.
have done it, they're doing it without, kind of just feel it out. And, yeah.
And I think what whatever variant, if it rears its ugly head, I mean, it might change it.
Yeah.
Across the state.
Feel that when it comes.
Yeah. So,
Right.
Right
Oh, you
now,
can
I'm
do.
just gonna listen.
So anyway, then I also gave you a copy of all the high school courses that are there.
And this is what is offered at the high school. We have a middle school student that wants to go virtual.
That's different.
That-
Well, this is middle school courses is on this handout, and elementary has options as well. If we were to have that.
And no, this is something like, let's say we do have a student that full-time in school, but they're like, oh, one of these courses would be really good for me.
So then that's a little different option. Then we gotta work with Meredith, you know, and make sure it fits. And then this document, it says certainty at the top.
Okay.
But this is basically a contract that kids have to sign.
Okay.
Because the district only pays for so much.
Right.
And so I think too, if they wanted to go 100%, I don't know how that works, Linda, with the district paying. We have in policy how much the district will pay for a student to do outside of the course, correct?
It's based on credits.
Right.
Based on credits. And then there's
So-
also a grade point that has to be achieved.
Right.
Otherwise, then the parents have to pick up the
But
bill.
it's fair, there may be one that's like, hey, I'd like to take a course or two, but I'd like to be here full-time all day, you know,
Sure.
you just.
So then that would be.
You never know.
So that's part of the course description guide, the option, they would meet with Meredith and go through that to make
Okay.
sure that, one, they have taken the prerequisites, and two, they have the time, because if you're a full-time student here, 8 hours or 7, and you're in athletics, and you think you want to take another course,
Right.
And usually when it comes to that, it's that it doesn't fit where we have it, doesn't fit in their schedule, or we do not have
Right. Okay.
right?
it. Because we obviously we encourage kids to take courses we provide.
Okay.
But if they want to take something, you know, that we don't provide at all, that makes sense.
And I know we had talked about this as well. So would this have that same type of contract where?
So that's where I
that-
don't
That
know,
grade point would have to be achieved for the district to pick it up, the full amount.
and I don't know if we do pick it up full. You know, I don't know how the board would feel, because it would be 8 credits. So what do we allow now?
I think they get 9
A year
just off the,
or total?
Total.
maybe it's 12, 12 a year, maybe 9 a year. I'd have to look it up. It's in policy.
So I'm just reading in the course description guide, it says virtual online courses. Students who are eligible may take courses through Wisconsin Virtual School or a SELLAS online curriculum. Offered in these program options are AP. The course is not currently offered in the district. Prior approval from the district administrator is required.
And this is certainly more reasonable than the college credits at $290 a course.
Mhm.
Versus pay per credit.
I can't find it right this very second, so.
So in this determination, as far as if they are going to come face to face or virtual, is there going to be like a timeline like that they need to decide by? Or is this right up until school starts?
Well, I haven't had anybody ask yet.
Okay.
I don't know though if it's been communicated clearly enough to families that we are not doing a virtual option with our own teachers.
Looks like 18 post-secondary semester credits. And maybe we need to have something. Well, they're taking, if they're 100% virtual and we're paying for it, it's not quite the same thing. We're paying for that service for them so they can be virtual because they want to, be a virtual student.
Yeah.
It's
district.
different than them taking post-secondary credits.
Correct.
So,
And they're still our students. so
Right,
we
we're getting
enroll
the
them.
funding for.
right,
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 no, they count as a full student.
right. They do.
But then we'll be paid.
Right, it's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
cut it.
basically, we get half what it would normally have given us at full-time in person.
Oh,
I didn't do the
more
math,
than
but
that, because I think it's 2,900.
yeah, we get, oh, I just wrote that down on my notebook tonight.
So if it's 290 and if they, let's say they take.
If they're open and rolled in and they're gen ed students this year, we'll get 8,125.
So we're not losing.
We're not losing.
It'd be about a third.
Yeah.
The third would go for the virtual and the two-thirds would go into our.
So I don't know if, do we need policy written for this? Probably,
Oops, I don't know.
Let's say that a student,
Got an awful lot of them written that don't get followed, so.
but I mean, as far
It's not
as
waste a lot of time to get the policy.
when it can be, you can't drop it. Well, there's gotta be something right now, because let's say they go to 40 days and then they're like, yeah, I don't wanna do it anymore, they're getting charged the full amount.
But would they not be signing a contract?
They would, but this has to be in policy though, is my point. And I don't know if this is even in policy yet.
That is a procedure.
It doesn't need to be in policy.
No, the problem is that I don't like all these forms to be in policy, because if I have to change a letter on it, technically I change
So
policy.
basically,
So,
you have something in policy that says their procedure, the procedure will be followed, and then we make up procedures.
and we can work on that. I can work on that.
So that's the one that you're recommending.
Legal.
Of the three, I am. It's most familiar, if we get kids that come from Richland, Richland uses Wisconsin virtual school, Riverdale uses it, River Valley uses it, like their in-house other classes kind of thing. So again, Julie, I don't know, have you done you haven't done a back to school letter?
No, that's on my to-do list.
So we are gonna have a registration kind of event on the 2nd of August, so that's where they would be able to, one, they can get their students schedules. And two, then if they are wanting to have a conversation about virtual, that would be. And then we would know who's in.
If there comments and questions. You're fine.
No, no.
We have to sit here till 7 anyway, so.
If not, we'll move on to number 5, new business. Untitled After School Program. Yes.
So gas time is just a little acronym. It means games after school, the Ithaca mind. She's writing it down.
ME.
Mindset for everyone or everywhere. I can't remember right now. I'll get that to you, Kathleen. Anyway, so the after school program so I'm kind of just I was toying with this idea, and I get a lot of positive response so far. What I want to make sure is that our board members that have a lot of experience with after school care chime in and give us their expertise. Not right now immediately or anything, but I'm like, I gotta talk to Becky. She knows what she's doing. Yeah. She's got it going on with the after school program. So anyway, we've had the first meeting, I just wrote down who was there. I found out that there's a Richland area child care task force. I had no idea. Because there's such a lack of childcare after school for the kids. Richland is planning on reopening their kids club. It had ended a couple of years ago, and now it looks like they're trying to stay, at least they advertise for positions, I found out. It is difficult to find people to work. So then we just started asking questions because I have no idea. What I have since found out, so I was thinking Monday through Thursday, but most of the people are like, no, you need to do it on Fridays too, because it's going to be harder than heck to get daycare just for Friday. And again, I don't know all of this stuff. So multi-purpose room, if we get, if we have to hire. And then Jill Plonka, who's done the games. Oh, here's the link to the grant, which I don't know if I got it yet. So we'd have some curriculum and some after school activities, and here we go. Games after school, the Ithaca mindset for everyone. Gas time. I don't know if we got that grant yet. I did write for another grant that just a real quick one that they did not ask me to write the full grant opportunity. So all right. And we even talked about transportation. If we have enough drivers, if the ESSER money goes through, can we transport the kids home after that? So have a secondary bus that would help all the families. We could do that for athletics. The kids would never, all the middle school kids could get on the bus and go home.
But that's one thing I was just talking about with my dad, as I said, when I was in middle school and high school, I probably would have never been able to play sports if there was not the lake bus. That's how we got, Riverdale. That's how we got home from everything.
Yeah.
Our parents were unable to come, and.
Right, and I
don't know that I would have, because I lived in Avoca, and when I went to middle school, I was in Blue River, because I still had Avoca school, sixth grade out there at like Excelsior, whatever you want to call it, and then Blue River, and then, you have this school in Musket. I mean, I was all over, but if those after school buses,
yeah,
it was.
and we didn't have that. In
I don't think
Waukesha at all.
most of us would have played back then,
And we did have late buses years and years ago here, but funding money.
No, it gets very.
Well, and actually, I would be more worried about right now so the governor just signed the bill today. I don't know what that means, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get our funding and the ESSER 3 money, in which case we'll be able to pay for anything. But to start it, I know that I have a little bit of money left over from the SEL grant that I can apply to beginning it and starting it. So I'm going to crunch numbers by, shoot, I was going to do that by the meeting tonight. I'll have to do that in between this meeting and the next meeting. So I can tell Ron. But I just wanted to let you know that the goal would be to be free or real cheap, like $1 a kid or something, just a nominal amount. And then we don't have to be certified because we're a school, but we can get certain things if we are certified, so we can get cheaper food. If we want to have snacks, we can do all of that. So again, Jill Plonka mentioned what they do. So they had puzzles and games and sledding, and K through 2 needed a lot of time working on how to do a game. And obviously the younger ones need more supervision than the older ones. And the middle school kids just like to sit and talk to each other because they haven't sat next to each other all day. So again, it depends on the kids in the mood at the time. Then we figured, and again, I'm jumping a little bit, but some of this stuff was just like pie in the sky. Swimming lessons would be awesome. First grade goes on Monday and they get swimming lessons every Monday. And then Tuesday, the bus goes and delivers second grade, whatever. So that might be something that we can include in the future. UW-Platteville has an after school and youth credential program. So you click on that, you look at it, we could potentially pay people to do that. It's like a 40-hour about program that you take on your own and take the classes. And then they would have that certification or credential rather to be a childcare worker. So one person for 20 hours a week as a leader. So somebody that is in charge and will do all, because I can't do everything. So the idea is that this person would take it and run with it. So they would make sure that they get all the advertising and all the kids, do some surveys, figure out the rooms, the snacks, the busing, everything. Then we thought one person for every 25 kids. And based on what happened with Game Club, she had about 40 kids. But if we're gonna say we're doing a Monday through Friday free after school childcare, and then we're gonna do enrichment and all that kind of stuff, we could have up to 100 kids. I mean, it might be like, oh
Well,
yeah,
and she only did third grade on up.
right.
And we're talking
4K
4K
on
on
up.
second. That's
Yeah.
another batch of kids
Yeah.
that need more supervision.
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, and we were hoping to set them free a little bit outside and let them run around.
So I see this, I mean, I think it's awesome and I know other schools are doing it. But space, I mean, after school, a lot of times that common in the elementary, like if it's middle school wrestling, isn't that where they're up practicing?
Yeah, and that's our biggest thing.
And yeah, I mean, I would say, and then when you talk about busing, we can hardly bus our kids to get them to school.
You know, that it's not about the money, it's about the number of bus drivers. That's our biggest thing.
Right, right.
Yes. So
So,
again, that's a
you know,
secondary.
I mean,
But the need is huge, like to have
Yeah,
in our community childcare, because, you know, we don't, if you drive away for your job and there's no daycare, well, I might as well drop my kid off at a different school, because then they can go from that school to my daycare instead of at Ithaca. You know, that's what we're seeing, because we have Becca and June and Tina and Cole, and I think that's it, that live in the district.
I know, I mean, I personally, for me, like, I mean, I've known all these other schools have done these after schools, like Highland has Cardinal Club, and, you know, Richland Center up until last year had always had it. I think Richland Center had them before and after school. I think they started at 6 a.m. until, and then, which is a lot. Because I would have, when I had a family from Richland Center, they would take them there once they were school age, but then if school all last minute got canceled because of weather, they're like, hey, can we bring them, you know? And I do think it's a great idea, because, I mean, I know I've talked to June over the years, her and I always stay in contact, and who has room. And although those kids come off the bus 4:10 until maybe 4:30, 4:45, you know. It just, I mean, it's prime pickup, you've screwed up the whole day, they're crazy. You know, you kind of are just in a cluster for 30 minutes, you know, and a lot of times because we have to maintain our full timers throughout the day, we don't always have the room for the after schoolers, you know. So I mean, I think the after school program would be absolutely amazing for that. I mean, you know, there may be somewhere, depending on the siblings, you know, where I may have one that isn't school age yet, and there's one in school, they may still choose to bus that child to my house after school just because it's less.
one pickup.
Yeah,
right.
If we don't,
but
that's-
because of even just so many kids and events and this and that, like a lot of the times the parents' mindset is, well, I'm going up to the school anyway. So they would swing by my house and pick up their kid, and they may still opt to have the older one and stay here because it's like, oh, well, we've got to go there. You know, I mean,
well, and we were hoping that like on the days, so this would be run on the days we have school.
Right.
So on the days that all the kids were gone, for, let's say it's a teacher in service, no daycare.
which,
And-
but those are on the calendar and they can plan for those.
Correct.
You know, I mean, it's.
No, but what if we had a snow day?
But we haven't gotten that deep into it yet.
I'll tell you, as a daycare provider, we are just ready for like,
Crazy and snowy.
crap. We need you,
50,000.
you know, we need you, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of,
Yeah.
snow days are a crapshoot. Okay.
I hear you.
I mean, it just is, because I know June too, I mean, we have teachers' kids also, so then it's like, you're not gonna have them. So then.
So you
the other-
take a few of the
yeah, I
others,
mean, you're basically just swapping.
swapping, swapping bodies.
Well, and we were hoping that with we have one day a month that we're done with kids around noon. That then that would start, we would start the daycare then
Okay, and stay.
and stay until five, same
Okay.
ending time, but on that Wednesday,
It'd be long.
it would be longer. So that the kids could go from one spot in the school to another. Now, there's a zillion things that we haven't talked about.
Well,
But-
and people that have their spaces, I mean, I think the space really needs to be really thought through, because there isn't a teacher that's gonna want their classroom used as an after-school daycare, because they have everything where they want it.
Right,
They don't want to come in that next morning and have things turned upside down. It may even be the same thing with using this room. I mean, this room has a lot of purpose educationally as well. And, I just see space as being,
so one of the things then we mentioned also, and Kathleen brought up actual daycare. Specifically, I would like to start, if we do that, so first I'd like the after-school program to get up and running. Then there's the possibility of starting a daycare with our teachers' students, teachers' children, excuse me.
We just had 6 babies.
I know.
Yeah.
And they
got
can't
lots of
find-
babies.
Yeah,
They can't.
they can't find daycare that would be close.
I know, because you.
Well, you can only have so many, correct?
And so
mean, you have
nursing
mountain
moms
limits.
can walk to the daycare and feed their kids. I mean, we can do anyway, that's the second, that's kind of like the first get over this hump, and then let's see what else we can do. And part of that is to retain staff. Not necessarily because they want to have a daycare, but we want to retain our staff. And that would be a huge bonus if you work here and have a child and your child gets dibs on daycare here. It's huge. So, and again, not trying to undercut anybody.
No,
There's more kids than there are people to watch them.
well, and you're gonna, I mean, more than likely, you're gonna have, you're still probably gonna have that, like, hey, if you have a spot, I'd love to bring my kid, especially if, any of us or somebody that's watched in the family before. And if not, like, oh, but we have this option.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, our next meeting is on June 20th at 5.
July.
I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
Well, I think too, if maybe next time, Julie, we can go, pick out the main areas of use, multipurpose room, library, big gym, old gym. And do a calendar, when does middle school basketball start? When does middle school wrestling actually use the multipurpose room?
Right.
Can, like middle school basketball starts right after school. Well, why? Because the kids have to be supervised. You're not gonna go home and come back. So if we have this and like, well, they're supervised, and we're using the old gym, maybe basketball can start at 5:30.
Right.
Instead of at 3:30, because the kids gotta be supervised. That's what they're supervised.
And that might help with coaches who are not teachers.
Right.
Who
Work till 5:30.
work till 5:30, so they're, during the season, yes, businesses are usually pretty good at saying, like, yeah, you can get out early during this, but then they wouldn't have to, right, if they were able
Or
to.
as early anyway.
As early, yeah, and if they were able to start later, and so.
But then we got middle school athletes. that we can transport back.
No, they could stay in the.
They could stay in the after-school program and then
then
walk
just
down
go
to the
over
gym or wherever.
It is, yeah.
So
But I
yeah,
think
space
we
is a number one thing.
Yeah.
Because even the, you threw out the big gym, well, once school starts. There's
Well,
sports,
Oh.
sports
Yeah.
practices and everything.
Yeah.
And then even some of the sports that supposed to do practice outside, if it's rain, they come inside.
I understand that, but it's not used every day. So if you had a big calendar.
It's a scheduling nightmare.
Well, we don't
And
have a
the-
rule, but when there's games, if both teams are coming, the gym is open.
Right. And like girls practice in the morning first thing and for a week, and the boys practice after school, and then the next week they switch, so they both have time in the gym. Yeah, even that is a scheduling nightmare. Anyway, we've had a lot of people saying, yes, yes, this sounds really good. My theory is that if I have like 3 or 4 students that are our residents and have open enrolled out because we don't have the daycare for the parents, and they open enroll back or they start
Back.
attending again, and it's a free daycare. I mean, the cost of the school district, it'll pay for itself with like 5 kids.
Well, we lost 3 this year at the end of the year because of that.
Okay.
And I know that, you know, I had a grandson that went to Hillsborough.
Yep.
With the rest of his siblings. And that was the issue.
Right.
Because, you know, Drew no longer worked here and
Right.
and
And,
they
you know,
couldn't
and
be here.
And we're
or-
hoping to be in partnership with the daycares, just like we called everybody when we talked about changing the 4K schedule. We wanted that to work for everybody. We didn't just say, oh, well, whatever. There was a process to that. The timeline on this is a little shorter because I don't know if we can get, and again, part of that is the board hearing that, you know, yes, I can start it. I can get like 3 people hired by this time. And if there's people to hire, we could potentially hire somebody like a part-time para, and they start at noon and work till 6. So it's a shorter period, but they start later in the day, and that maybe covers a little bit. Anyway, everything's still squishy, but at least the awareness of it is out there. Every single person that I've talked to is like, oh, that sounds great. That would really be helpful. And some parents just need an extra 20 minutes to get here. It's not until 5:30, it's just until their kids are ready to get picked up.
And I said, I mean, that's part of why I have some bus me after school because they're done with work, but it's just like they need that. And there's plenty of nights where the parents are standing there waiting when the bus gets there, but it's just they can't get to school before the buses leave.
Right.
And, you know. So
So,
So have you looked at any options of space kind of within our territory
not
that
yet.
isn't being used?
So I'm just emailing Julie now, because I haven't, you know, to Donna Hall.
Well,
Same
you know,
areas.
Keysville's right up by us and it was a school.
Right. So that is a possibility, but then we'd have to drop them all off there. So we might have to do like a bus just going up there.
Yeah.
Or 2, depending on the kids, and then you lose a couple in transport. No, I'm kidding. We also even thought about, what if a kid misbehaves? And they're so naughty that we don't want them there because, you know, it is a free service. You know, can we give them a suspension from after school care? I don't know, but that's the idea that, you know, if
So
they're not.
does it need to be free? I mean, even the kids club at Richland was, I think, $3 a session.
the parents will pay it.
Mhm.
And that's what I suggested that, and both Jill and Chelsea were, well, Jill was the big one, free, gotta have it free. And I'm like, but then how do we pay for it? Because
It
I,
has to have a value.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when
Because you respect. them a
when
little
it's
bit more.
free, there is, I mean, yeah, then it's,
I mean, you can always, you know, if parent can't pay the $5 a day, so it's $25 a week per family. You can even do per family. If you can't do it, Becca says, no, God, I just can't. Okay, that's fine. Nobody needs to know, just like we do for field trips. You
Right.
can't pay, oh, well, but I can pay. And she can pay, so we're gonna pay.
I think it has to have a value and it doesn't have to be a big amount,
right,
but I think, you
Yeah,
know,
something has to be paid.
see, and that's why I might,
They will. I don't think that would cause anybody to not do it, because I mean, if they ask it on any other school, I know at Highland, when my sister-in-law first moved here from Minnesota and started teaching there, they have cardinal clubs. And the way they did it, which is very hard, is when she got her contract, everything, it was, if your kids are going to attend cardinal club, basically the teachers all had to take turns working. If your kids went and you were a teacher, then your kids went for free, as long as you worked, and it might have been like twice a month, or I mean, whatever it was, I mean, it was worked out, but at Highland, the teachers all worked the after-school program. And I do think that would be very, very hard to get. But it's the way it's always been set up there. So while her kids needed it, they went for free because she
She did her time.
She did her time.
Yeah.
You know, but I've never heard any complaints from any of the surrounding schools where I know that they do it, that anybody was like, hey, it's like, no, you're gonna keep my kids.
How much do you want? I always said kids are priceless. Some days it's like, just take them, it's free. And the other day it's like, no, it's $5 million for this kid.
And I mean, and you're always gonna have, you end at 5:30, my day ends at 5:30, my day never ends at 5:30.
Yeah.
My day never ends at 5:30. I'm literally like, basically some days waiting in the driveway going, I needed to be out of here 5 minutes ago. Like, because they're 15 minutes late. And they're,
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna have that. You have to be ready for that. And-
definitely.
But you could also, say, at a certain point, you could also say, and I don't do it, I know a lot of other daycares that do it. Basically, you're paying $5 a minute that you're
Yeah.
late because it's so continual
Okay.
that they have to like make it.
And you can
Penalty.
see that with how kids get dropped off. It got earlier and
Yeah.
earlier and
Yeah.
earlier.
You know, the line is all the way by 25 after 7. You
Yeah.
stand in the door
So,
going,
I
yeah, we're
mean,
not
I think there has to be some regiment to it as well. I'd like to see some enrichment. I
Yeah,
think that's what Hillsborough has, so that if kids do have some things, that there is some quiet time, and you can still have fun and have snacks but it isn't just a free for all.
except on Fridays. You might want to leave the house at 3:30.
yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll tell you, if you can persuade some of those senior ladies up there to touch their banana hall, good luck.
Yeah. I did ask, because I had no idea how much, my kid's 26. I think I ever paid for daycare personally. But how much is it, the rates? And again, this is from Juneau County, so this is just an idea. I've been talking to Chucky Darns, I can't remember. Rachel something, S. That's when you can't read either. And then how much do you charge? How much do they pay workers? Because again, I don't know how much a provider gets when they work. So I just asked, and this is by county. So these are all licensed. Crawford is 10 or 11. That's about 11. That's closer to 13. Here's 10, 9, and 10. So how much do daycare providers, the hourly people work? So, if you hire somebody that's coordinating it, they make more money, and then they're in charge and that kind of a thing. Then the other,
But these people will be licensed.
yes,
So if it's just a worker, they not necessarily the same.
correct. The other thing is that I see this as an opportunity for both our high school and middle school students to volunteer to help. And we also can do youth apprenticeships. So our kids can work, we can pay them as a youth apprenticeship. Dude, you and so it's just another thing. It's a bonus for the kids. So, and even if you're in volleyball, maybe you're the first half an hour, you get ready and then you come in and you help organize all the kids and then you go practice. I don't know. It's wide open, and that's the bonus of having a K-12.
We have late practice.
Or you have late practice, you can work this, however it was. So, again, it's still in the infancy stage. Yeah, it is. And then if it is successful and we do want to do the daycare, I really would like, and this was Kathleen's suggestion, I would like to build onto the community gym and add a place for daycare over there. So that we could use then the gym during the day. We could use the kitchen, bathrooms, everything. And there just would be a place added onto the end to have daycare. If we get that far. I don't know what that would cost, no. But really, you can, I got my house for 50,000. So you pick it up, you put it on the foundation, you squeeze the two sides together and you got a house, which is,
Or you have your egg, or you have your tech teacher build a house.
that's an idea too. So. Any questions about that? No, it's actually opens more questions, but. Okay.
Set the next meeting.
It's not yet August something.
So if we're gonna stick with, so this happened to be the second week
Because of the board, because it's the fourth.
because of the fourth. And you guys, you can pick whenever you want your meetings. Linda likes to stay away from Wednesdays, when she goes. So you might say
I have
5 o'clock is too hard to get here.
It's too, yeah, 5 o'clock too early?
This is probably my last one that I could make 5 o'clock.
Right, that's why I figured we need to modify when we're gonna have it, because you have a business and you wanna honor that, so.
And so, yeah, so starting next week now, I'm feeling until 5:30.
So is 6 o'clock
Yeah,
doable?
no, 6 is doable.
Okay,
6 is
so
doable.
So 6
and-
o'clock.
I like to have it plan the same, and we'll plan it the whole school year on the same day if you're okay with it. So if it's the first
First
Thursday at 6 o'clock. And we can do that.
Tuesday,
You just
or
ignore my
11.
note. This is so I know what is going on. So it would be Thursday, August 5th at 6 o'clock. Where's my minutes? So Thursday, August 6th, 6 at 6. I don't know why that's doing that. Is it the 5th or the
Yeah,
6th?
6 is the Friday.
Thank you.
And not Friday.
Go with Fridays.
No, we don't want anything on Friday nights.
Also moved.
When we're in committees, we really don't necessarily have to do that. So I just write adjourned. There you go. You ran your first meeting.
Yay.
Oops. Stop this. Stop.